Here at the New York Auto Show, we got our first North American taste of the Mercedes-Benz GLS, their all-new S-Class of crossovers. This is designed to sit atop of their crossover lineup, being obviously larger and more expensive than the GLE. It gives us three-row room on the inside, and in some ways competes with vehicles like the Escalade and the Navigator. But I think a little bit more directly in the Mercedes lineup, it really is trying to compete with the BMW X. But of course, in reality, because this is a European vehicle and it does get pretty expensive, and of course there are going to be AMG versions, it's more likely to compete more directly with the rest of the German competition. At least initially, the GLS will come in two different flavors, the GLS 450 and the GLS 580. Expect AMG models to be following very shortly thereafter. All versions are 205 inches long, which makes this a little bit longer than a short wheelbase Escalade, but a little bit shorter than the Lincoln Navigator. Mercedes has really gone minimalist when it comes to their most recent designs, and you can really see that back here. We have a lot of flowing lines, simple lines, and not a lot of visual clutter going on back here. Under the hood, we have two different engines at the beginning. A 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine that produces 362 horsepower, very similar to what we see in some of Mercedes' other recent models. And then optionally, we can get a 4-liter twin-turbo V8. That will produce 483 horsepower and a whopping 516 pound-feet of torque. Both engines benefit from the new Mercedes-Benz EQ Boost technology. This is sort of a mild hybrid system that they've developed for vehicles like this, the E-Class, etc. The benefit to this particular system versus most mild hybrids out there is that we actually have an electric air conditioning compressor. So in addition to the benefit of start-stop, when you stop at a stoplight and the engine turns off, this vehicle will actually be able to keep the air conditioning running, so that way if you're in a climate like Houston and it's 100 degrees outside, you'll still be able to benefit from that start-stop ability. Now, the 21 horsepower electric motor cannot drive the vehicle in its own right, so it's never going to have an EV mode operation. But it is going to be able to turn off that engine a little bit sooner and keep the engine off longer at stops. The previous generation GLS has really aged very well, but this new generation model definitely takes things to the next level. When we take a look at the dashboard components, improved fit and finish is definitely immediately obvious, and we have a very similar styling theme to some of Mercedes' most recent models, although instead of round air vents, we get these square air vents. A lot of open pore wood going on the dashboard, down here on these roller covers, etc. And of course, Mercedes-Benz latest infotainment system, MBUX, or MBUX as some people call it. This is a combination touchscreen and controller interface, so you can actually touch the screen right like that and interact with the system in a very simple fashion, or you can use the controller that's right there in the center console. The steering wheel is very similar to what we see in the current generation S-Class. It also includes some finger gesture buttons right down here. These are very similar to what we saw in 1990s Blackberries, and allows you to interact with these screens using the steering wheel as well. We also see their next generation of stalks back here, both the shift stalk and the turn signal stalk, so we should definitely see these components working their way down to other Mercedes models in time. Everything about this interior just screams big luxury vehicle, so these seats are definitely very large and very comfortable, and the excellent fit and finish continues as we work our way back down the center console. Something that we don't see terribly often in luxury crossovers, even larger luxury crossovers, are niceties like powered rear seats. These seats actually have a powered forward-backward motion, a powered recline, and even a powered headrest. We also see heated rear seats, available ventilation appears to be coming soon, based on that button blank right there. And overall, these second row seats, although not as comfortable as the front row, are definitely more comfortable than the average 3-row crossover seats. If I hop into the back seat, let's check out that room back here. This is a 2-person rear seat. Ooh, definitely things are a little bit tight on this side. Now, keep in mind that I did have that one seat a little bit far back, but there's really not much room back here in the third row, although headroom is definitely very generous. The overall room in here probably would be sufficient for me to sit in the front row, the second row, and the third row, but I would have to adjust this seat forward just a little bit there. Now, overall legroom in here does seem to be better than the short wheelbase Cadillac Escalade. That's possible because this is a crossover in the truest sense of the word, not a body-on-frame SUV, and that results in greater space efficiency overall. A nice touch back here in the third row is that we actually have heated third row seats with 3 different levels and then 2 USB-C charge ports on each side. We also have materials quality that is definitely a little bit nicer than the average 3-row crossover, although you will still find hard plastics back here. The reason for those hard plastics, of course, is because most 3-row SUVs or crossovers spend most of their time with the third row closed, and it's going to be no different for the GLS than any of the other large luxury crossovers. Back here we do find a little bit more cargo capacity than before, but not as much as you might hope in a vehicle that's this big. Just again, as we see in vehicles like the Escalade or Navigator, we do have a little bit of extra storage space right here under the cargo area load floor, however. You should find the GLS 450 and GLS 580 on dealer lots coming soon in 2019. We're told by approximately this summer. We don't know exactly how much they're going to cost just yet, but expect them to be more expensive than the outgoing models. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually became one of the more expensive large three-row crossovers available in America, thanks to all the new feature equipment and of course the new components that we find on the inside. So at the moment, the GLS has been a little bit less expensive actually than the Navigator or Escalade, but I wouldn't be surprised if this generation changed that and it became more expensive. In the meantime, be sure and hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get you updates just as soon as we can, and of course a complete review coming up soon. I'll see you later.